Hey folks, it's Nate. Thanks for joining me at the art table again today. One of the trends I hate the most in modern storytelling is the focus on the moment and a total disregard of the past. No longer do the facts of an existing story matter for high and mighty artists looking to do their own thing. This trend shows up everywhere nowadays. Amazon's Rings of Power, Disney's mangling of Star Wars, particularly the old extended universe, every Star Trek movie and series since the end of Enterprise, the list goes on and on. Old stories are cast aside to quote-unquote make room for new stories, as if the old was some kind of barrier to achievement. There is an outright hostility to legacy in the major American studios these days. There's a lot you can say in response to that in the abstract, commenting on the way SoCal is childless and thus views legacy as aberrant, or on the fetishization of rebellion that has defined the arts for the last 100 years or so. These kinds of observations are fine for what they are, but I am a storyteller, and I tend to respond to these kinds of attitudes by reflecting on stories that see legacy not as some kind of obstacle or enemy to be overcome, but as an asset, or even the heart of the story. Akane-banashi is a manga written by Yuki Suenaga and illustrated by Takamasu Moe that focuses on the art of Rakugo. Rakugo is a traditional performing art that is somewhere between 200 and 250 years old, at least in its modern incarnation. There seem to be some references to it in previous times. My cursory research on the topic, mainly browsing Wikipedia to be fair, shows it may go back as far as the 15 or 1600s, but there's not a whole lot of English language references to draw on there, so I had difficulty confirming anything that old. Regardless, it seems to have had its greatest time of cultural influence in the early 1900s, what is known as the Taisho area, shortly before the World Wars really kicked off. So it is a fairly old performing art, although certainly not the oldest one that exists anywhere in the world. In format, Rakugo consists of a single person sitting in a formal pose known as seiza and telling a story to the audience. Character, situation, and action are all conveyed through the use of pantomime, changes in voice, and the use of a paper fan and a piece of cloth as props. The performer is known as a rakugoka. With this general background information out of the way, what is the story actually about? Well, we begin with Shinta Arakawa, which is the stage name of a man named Teru Osami, a man studying to be a professional rakugoka. He has invested 13 years of his life into mastering skills and studying under his master, Shiguma Arakawa, as a member of the prestigious Arakawa School of Rakugo. His family struggles to make ends meet. His daughter gets into fights at school when bullies call him a deadbeat, and his wife's family has never quite approved of him. Yet his daughter admires him, his wife supports him, and his house is full of the magic of Rakugo. So Shinta continues to perform to small audiences, hoping to get promoted to the rank of Shin-uchi, a formally recognized master of the art. Once promoted, he can get bigger gigs and land a larger share of the profits. All he has to do is impress the leading performers in the Arakawa school at one big performance. In particular, he has to impress the school's leader, Isho Arakawa. Except he doesn't. When Shinta and the other Arakawa prospects are given the opportunity to perform for Isho Arakawa and receive acknowledgement as Shin-uchi, the result is quite shocking. Isho expels all 7 of them without explanation. While there's nothing preventing them from starting over from scratch with another Rakugo master in another school, Teru does not have that luxury. His family is depending on him, and he can't really afford to keep them waiting any longer. So Teru Osami sets aside his stage name and gets a job selling concrete. He does well, draws an impressive salary, and never tells a story again. His family eats better, his neighbors respect him more, and his house, well, the magic of Rakugo vanishes from it, and Akane, his daughter, is mortified. A few months later, she comes to Shiguma's door and demands to learn the art of Rakugo from him, so she can prove that the performance her father gave was not worthless. Taking up her father's calling, she sets out to prove her own mettle and redeem Shinta Arakawa's name. In and of itself, Akane's struggle and goal is compelling. However, the Osami family legacy is only the tip of the iceberg in akane-banashi. Rakugo is a traditional art form, something that has a much stronger connotation in Japan than in the US. It can only be passed down from a master to an apprentice. The very concept of legacy is built into the way it propagates. As Akane learns more and more about the art form, she discovers that everyone who performs it carries at least as much emotional connection to Rakugo as she does. Ironically, her biggest target, Isho Arakawa, is no exception to this. As the antagonist of akane-banashi, Isho is a fascinating enigma. Rakugo is generally considered a form of comedy, yet Isho is almost never shown smiling when he's not performing. In fact, on first glance, he is a bit of a grump, always grumbling and complaining. And then we realize that's an illusion. Isho's actually focused on his art form with a frightening, laser-like intensity that allows for no failure or contradiction. When Akane finds an opportunity to confront Isho in person and ask why her father was expelled from the Arakawa school, we gain our first major insight into his character. He deflects the question by telling Akane he is in mourning. Rakugo is dying, you see. In the modern age, with the internet and smartphones affording the average person a constant bombardment of entertainment, there's little hunger for the simple yet profound entertainment Rakugo provides. Only the most captivating Rakugoka have any hope of retaining an audience in that environment. In short, Isho feels he must carry the legacy of Rakugo itself on his shoulders or it will pass away. As time goes on, we find that Shiguma, the man who taught both Teru and Akane the art of Rakugo, also bears a legacy from his master, one he hoped to pass on, first to Teru and now to Akane. And it is a legacy he and Isho fought over, for it turns out the two of them both learned their art from the same man. As time goes on and the story of akane-banashi builds on itself, the legacies of each character and the legacy of Rakugo itself join together like the pieces of a mosaic. We go from a story about a single character trying to master a craft and right a wrong to a vast web spanning generations, all tied together by a passion for performance. Here, the old is no impediment to expression. It is the very foundation of it. Even Isho Arakawa, for all his dour moods and callous behavior, presents hard but realistic lessons that the up-and-coming talent must eventually grapple with if they want to be worthy of Rakugo's legacy. It is this web of generational inheritance that makes this simple story about traditional comedy tick. It transforms a tale about finding a career from a straightforward, if beautifully illustrated, coming-of-age story to a deep, rich, and compelling emotional journey. It makes Rakugo more interesting than some blockbuster movies with multi-million-dollar budgets. And it is why I believe the concept of legacy is a rich vein of storytelling potential that could be deeply mined if we only took the time to respect it and then build off of it, rather than completely sweeping it away in favor of whatever we have in mind. Now, I myself have written a couple of stories where legacy is an important factor as well, and if you're interested in those, you can check out my anthology book, Have Spell Will Travel, which is available from Amazon.com at the link down in the description below. It's the only way I ask those who enjoy what I do here to support my work. If you have a particular story about legacy that you'd like to share, tell me about it down in the comments. I'll take a look at it if I have the time. While you're down there, there's a like button and a subscribe button. You can use those as you see fit, and I'll talk to you later.